I didn't want to do videos on this franchise this early, but I just got so mad I couldn't wait any longer. So, Xenoblade. If you've never heard of it, it's the latest incarnation of a long line of fantasy RPG games developed by Monolith Software. The Xenoblade series in particular concerns, well, a lot of different things. It's hard to see the patterns and recurring themes from the outside looking in. Most of it is repeating character archetypes, names, symbols, and mystical items or weapons. But with each new game, we get more and more information concerning the idea that they are all connected, different realities resulting from the different effects of one cataclysmic decision made before the beginning of the story. If that sounds interesting to you and you want to know more about the series, I encourage you to go ahead and explore the Xenoblade Wiki. It'll teach you much more than I ever could. Otherwise, settle in because this is going to be a long one. So the character I'm coloring here is Noah, the main protagonist of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the most recent game which just came out last year. And to be honest, he is where all the anger started. Simply put, his design is boring. I wouldn't exactly call it bad. In fact, it's so dull and uninteresting it goes full circle back to doing a good job of highlighting him as the main character. Essentially, he looks so much like a basic everyman shonen MC that you immediately assume that's what he is. The only feature that makes him stand out a little from the sea of similar-looking characters is the ponytail, which I do appreciate. Long hair boys rule. Anyway, regardless of how sadly appropriate his design is, it's still really dull, especially when compared to previous protagonists in the series. For instance, there's Shulk, the protagonist of the original Xenoblade Chronicles, who I think still has the most interesting MC design of the series. They just can't top this look. In fact, every time they try to redesign it, update it, or do a different take on it, they just ruin it, which makes me even more angry, but I'll talk about that some other time. Today, we're just going to focus on what this design does well. It still follows the traditional rules of shonen character outfits, with the long shorts and the layered top and the decorative belts. But what makes it unique is the round shape language in the decorations and details, the use of honestly cute analogous colors, and the actual visible patterns on the outfit. I think that's what drew me in the most and made me actually interested in the franchise, seeing a fantasy character design that actually looks like it has an ethnicity, like it genuinely comes from another place with its own culture. Not just another bland reimagining of medieval European clothes, or just normal modern clothes with armor and a cape thrown on top. It's hard to look at all the circular repetition on Shulk's outfit and not feel like it all belongs together, like it has significance and says something about the artistic sensibilities of the society he comes from. And the similar patterns on the other characters in the game cements this feeling. When you put these characters together in the same scene, they automatically look like they also belong together. This is called cohesion, and it's a great way to help immerse your audience in a new environment. Anyway, I got a little off topic there. The point is, it's a great outfit, and there are very few male protagonists who look like Shulk, with that color scheme and shape language. It's unique, and it fits his caring, dreamy personality while still highlighting him as the main character. He wears colors that are adjacent to red and adjacent to blue, making him look great with the Monado, the bright red and blue sword at the center of the plot. But he's not the only Xenoblade protagonist with a good design. I never really liked Rex, but I always thought he was at least a decent-looking main character. Apparently, the word on the street is that people made fun of him when he was first introduced along with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I'm not active in the fandom or anything, so I don't know what the general reaction was. Anyway, I can admit that it's a little goofy looking, with the poofy thigh section and the big bulbous shoes that honestly look like they just weren't drawn correctly. But apart from that, it's a solid design. The main color is a friendly shade of bright blue that matches his personality, accented with warm browns and lots of metallic gold, which fits the earthy, steampunkish aesthetic of the first environment you get to explore in the game. And the most interesting aspect of the outfit is that it's functional. At a glance, it provides information on what the character does. The point where I finally realized, oh wait, that's just a deconstruction of his salvager suit, was when I really started to appreciate it as a design. Like, he's not just wearing a hood, he's wearing his diving helmet on his back. That's not just any flashy accessory on his wrist, that's a grappling hook. And his chunky clothes aren't just chunky for chunk's sake. It's probably to help protect him from the elements in the Cloud Sea. And regardless, when you look at it from a director's perspective, it's a good choice to help make an honestly very tiny boy look a little more powerful and dynamic as the hero of the story. My absolute favorite part of the design is this, though. Look, here's Rex without the core crystal, and here he is with the core crystal. It's like the cherry on top, just this one tiny detail makes his design look complete. Essentially, the character design isn't actually finished until a main component of the plot is added to it, which happens right when the story finally starts to get rolling. From a storytelling perspective, it's absolutely brilliant. I feel like this kind of thing is what character design is meant for. So, with these two as the protagonists of the previous Xenoblade games, naturally when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was announced, I expected a protagonist with an equally strong design. Like, even just a design like Rex's, where I might not even really like it, but I can still appreciate it and see all the care that went into making it. And all I got was a dude in a red jacket. So, let's take a look at Noah's design and why I was unsatisfied with it. At first glance, the element that immediately draws your eye is that red jacket, which is good. This is what I call a point of interest, a design element that stands out from the rest enough to say, hey, look at me, to the viewer. You can achieve this by making it a different shape or size, or in this case color, compared to everything else. The problem with this point of interest, unfortunately, is that it's kind of the only one. Your eye gets drawn to the red and up to Noah's face, and after that you naturally scan downwards looking for more interesting details, and you just don't find any. The jacket itself is mostly blank except for a very subtle chevron motif that I never even noticed until I did research for this video. He's got some belt things on his hips, but those are kinda ugly and bland, not much to see there. He's got some knee pads, which are the exact same color as his pants, not much to see there. And he's got some generic battle boots on, not much to see there either. And that's the end of the design. Oh well. I would call it minimalist, but even from a minimalist perspective, it still sucks because it's not minimal enough. His clothes underneath the jacket can't simply be looked at as a dark-colored backdrop to put the jacket center stage, because they've got all these differing values. He's wearing brown black, blue black, gray black, and black black. My brain can't help but read all these different colored elements as individual objects. And then the jacket itself, despite being center stage, isn't even interesting to look at. Like, if minimalism was your goal, you would make the jacket really pop. Give it an interesting texture or cut or decoration that immediately stands out. One big design element to effortlessly define it as the Noah jacket. But instead it's just a jacket. It's got some faint lines on it. This little silver arrow detail is pretty cool. I think it has black shoulder patches, but it's hard to tell with the strippity straps covering it up. And that's about it. In some renders, it doesn't even look like it fits him very well. There's just no payoff. It's like they use this bright red color to draw your eye, without remembering to give your eye something to look at when it gets there. So what could be done to fix this design and make it more interesting? If you've been watching me color all this time, you probably already know what I decided to do. Now I'm going to tell you why I did it. Let's start with the red jacket. First and foremost, I decided to make the chevron motif less subtle and more noticeable. I think the reason they didn't do this on the original is because of all those different dark values I mentioned before. With a bunch of different reds on top of a bunch of different grays and blacks, the design would just look noisy. But here, limiting the biggest portions of dark value to just blue-black and black-black allows for more variety in the reds. This is how you do a minimalist design correctly. Put your emphasis on the focal point, and allow everything else to fade into the background and look more or less the same. The second change I made to the jacket was to add these dark patches to the cuffs and the hemline. These help to weigh down the bright red and help it fit into the rest of the design a little better. This also helps to make the dark shoulder patches more noticeable, because now they have friends. Your eye sees a dark patch here and a dark patch there, and recognizes the pattern enough to find the dark patches up here, even though they're still partially covered by the straps. I also added some gold accents, because I think Noah could really stand to wear more gold. His blade is red with a huge section of gold running down the middle of it, and some similar colored accents on his own outfit would make the two look more like they belong together. As it stands, the only gold in his real design is these tiny itty-bitty stripes on his belt, almost as if this whole character is meant to be a backdrop for his weapon, rather than an analog to it like Shulk, or a complement to it like Rex. And seeing as Noah's blade really isn't that important to the plot, I don't think this is a good design choice. The hidden weapon inside the blade is the actual important weapon, and it doesn't look anything like this, so giving Noah this color scheme doesn't service the storytelling. It just draws your eye away from him completely whenever he's holding his blade, as if having it light up like a sparkler in-game isn't enough. So yeah, these gold accents help alleviate the problem. They also subtly separate the jacket from the rest of the design, because nothing else in his outfit contains any gold at all. And in terms of storytelling, this makes sense, because the jacket is something he found somewhere else, a symbol of him beginning to cultivate a sense of individuality. It should look a little different and a little special compared to the rest of the outfit, even compared to the other red sections I introduced to the outfit. And speaking of those new red sections, I got the idea to do this from Uni, another protagonist in the same game who's basically Noah's design concept done right. Her design is also pretty much a deconstructed military uniform plus a new jacket, but the uniform remnant she wears underneath is a skin-tight bodysuit that's practically all one color, a great minimalist backdrop to put her bright yellow hoodie center stage. From there, your eye is drawn to the leather jacket she wears on top of the hoodie, which not only reflects the rough side of her personality, but has a unique texture and lots of little details for you to look at while you're up there. After that, your eyes naturally scan downward to look for more, landing on the perfectly placed circular belt buckle that highlights her hips. And from there, the bright white lines on her legs literally lead you down to her adorable sneakers, which match and balance the yellow hoodie while reflecting the playful side of her personality, making her feel like a more casual, easygoing character. Like, this design is so good, it's maddening that Noah looks so lackluster. Like, of course, all the cute girl protagonists have really strong, iconic designs, while 2 out of 3 boys look like no one really cared about their appearance. Anyway, I got way off topic there. Basically, Uni's design gave me the idea to add some balance to Noah by adding red sections to his feet. So I made some little armored spats that fit over his military boots. Like the jacket, these are weighed down by the dark sections on the top and bottom, which makes them feel like they match. They also have larger sections of that highlighter blue accent color that's sprinkled throughout the design, which I think is more interesting than just having the tiny blue circles on his boots carry his entire lower body all alone. And this highlight literally points to the circles, making them stand out more, even though they now have to compete with the bright red. And that's all for the big changes. Everything else was just proportion shifting, making the boots a little shorter and the jacket a little longer, and actually fitting the jacket to the character's body, instead of having it awkwardly flop around his wrists and waistline. I just don't think it looks very good in-game, and besides, he already has a point of interest on his waist with the belt things. We don't need 2 things flaring out in the same place. Just pick one or the other, or don't bother. To be honest, I think the X-shaped straps on top of the red jacket are more than enough for his torso. And that's it for this redesign. I hope you liked it, and even if you didn't, I hope you can understand the changes I made. It's been really nice to return to my roots and make a video primarily talking about character design again. Although I have to say, it took all of my strength to avoid ranting about the issues I had with this game's story and characters. Maybe someday I'll make a video about that, I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching, like, subscribe, whatever, and check out my Coffee page gallery to see the finished pictures in these videos. Till next time!